Today's episode is brought to you by Clorox. When it counts, trust Clorox the same way we trust essential workers to provide the care they give to us. Families trust Clorox to give them a safe and protected home.
Our community heroes trust Clorox to keep places like hospitals and grocery stores disinfected. So I know I too can trust Clorox to provide my home with a safe environment at home we can all enjoy. So I have a story for you, Amanda. With Clorox, there's one thing I definitely use it for every single time before I step into my vanity van. I love the entire place disinfected because that's where I keep my makeup. That's where I get ready. That's where my clothes are. That's sometimes where I take a nap as well. So, I can use it all over like time of need. So, it's been really, it just keeps everything super clean and I feel super safe.
For me, it's important to share with loved ones and the public in general how they can give the most care for their loved ones, especially during times like these. I mean, with the pandemic going on, with COVID going on, it's just great to be extra sanitary with all the items that are around you, caring for others, and, just wiping down the door handle after you use the bathroom or wiping down
so important.
The toilet handle. Don't forget the toilet handle. So remember,
when it counts, trust Clorox.
Frustrating is backwards going, especially when you're trying to get ahead in life and at work. So if you're thinking of going to school, enroll at Brandman University, where you can use tomorrow what you learned today in over 90 programs built from the job up. Keep your life and your education moving in the right direction. And go ahead with school, not back to it. At Brandman University. Visit brandman.edu or click the banner.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Folks, I finally created a Facebook page for the podcast. I will post a link to it in the description box, and I figure we can use it to keep the conversation going. If there's something about the article that we cover, you can pop on there and we can talk about it, we can discuss it, we can dissect it, and we can throw ideas off of each other, right? Because again, having a huge, vibrant forum, I think, is a really good idea when it comes to a case like this, because there's so much that is going on in this case that there's nobody on this planet, me or anybody else, who knows every last thing that's happening. So having us all be able to connect and talk about things that involve this case and pass off tips and different leads to each other, I think it's a huge deal. So I think that having a forum for us to discuss what goes on is going to be very beneficial moving forward. So I created that page for that exact purpose. And like I said, the link will be in the description box with all of the other links. All right. So today we're going to talk about an article from the Daily Beast again. And folks, I know I gave them props recently for their coverage, but I have to do it again here. This is very, very, very good stuff from the Daily Beast. Not too many people have wanted to talk about the ties between Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of these legacy media outlets have shied away from it because they don't want to give ammunition to the other side. That's how pathetic these people are. They would rather keep it covered up how tight Maxwell and the Clintons were than to give so-called ammunition to their political rivals. Just think about that for a minute, folks. Think about how dastardly that is, how gross that is. Well, we're not going to worry about that here on the podcast, and we're not going to worry about upsetting anybody, because the truth is all that matters in this case, and every single person who was involved needs to be put on blast. And the fact that the DNC would have Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton speak at their convention is absolutely nauseating. It's nauseating, just like Dershowitz being a lawyer for the President of the United States. Absolutely disgusting. And what it does is it shows you that these people truly do not care what we think or what we say. They believe that they can get away with whatever they want to get away with, and there will be no repercussions. Nobody will ever call them out. Nobody will ever ask the hard questions because, hell, we're the Clintons. Why would anyone ask us the hard questions? Well, the Daily Beast is asking those hard questions, and the Daily Beast is also bringing up the fact that Hillary Clinton hired Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew to work for her at the State Department. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This isn't made up. This is a fact. We've discussed it here on the podcast previously. We didn't go too much in depth into it because there wasn't much there besides his profile, his LinkedIn profile, where he had worked, etc., etc. We covered all of that. But now the Daily Beast has put it into an article form, and it should not shock you that it was Kate Bricklet who wrote this article. Now, we all know Daily Beast is a pretty heavily left-leaning outlet. So there can be no rumbles of this being some sort of right-wing hit job or a right-wing hit piece. None of that shit at all. This is a staunchly left-leaning outlet, and they are showing tremendous courage here to bring something like this up because, folks, this is a bombshell. Can you imagine? Think about this for a minute. Think about if Donald Trump's wife hired Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew to work for her at the State Department. Think about the bedlam that would ensue. And all I'm asking for from the legacy media is to be equally outraged. But so far, from most in the legacy media, it is one-way traffic and do anything to protect our faves, just like Nancy Pelosi's daughter said. All right, so on to our article. The headline: Hillary Clinton gave State Department job to Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew. Headline, author, Kate Bricklet. And again, this is in the Daily Beast. Since Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest on charges of helping Jeffrey Epstein abuse underage girls, rumors have swirled about her ties to famous figures, including Democratic power couple Bill and Hillary Clinton. I don't really think we could call them even rumors at this point, right? We know that Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. We know that according to Gerald Lefcourt and Alan Dershowitz, Jeffrey Epstein was one of the first donors to the Clinton Global Initiative and somebody who helped get it off the ground. We know that Bill Clinton was found in a painting dressed as a woman on Jeffrey Epstein's wall. We know that the Clintons were guests of Epstein all over at all of his properties. And the legacy media doesn't think it's fitting to dive deeper into this. They don't think it's a good idea to really find out what the deal was here. I mean, Epstein's only been visiting the Clinton White House since his term. No big deal, right? Nothing to see here, folks. Keep it moving. The Clintons, no, they're off limits. We can't talk about them because it might sabotage us politically. That's how gross this all is. It's all about politics to some of these people. And I'll tell you what, I'm sick and tired of it. On Tuesday, the Daily Mail published photos of former President Clinton receiving a neck massage from Shantae Davies, one of Jeffrey Epstein's survivors, during a stopover on his infamous 2002 trip to Africa with the deceased sex trafficker. And again, folks, look, Shantae has come out and said that Bill Clinton was a perfect gentleman. You've never heard me once here say that Bill Clinton abused anybody on the island with Epstein, or according to the evidence we have thus far, anywhere when he was with Epstein. But don't you think it's kind of a big deal that an ex-president, such a powerful man who still holds great power within the Democratic Party, was pictured getting a massage from a girl who was actively being sex trafficked and abused on a regular basis by the man who was hosting him? That's not a big deal? Come on now. It's a huge deal. And it needs to be all over the place. Nobody has dug into the Clintons and asked them the hard questions. Anytime it happens, the default reaction is, it's a right-wing conspiracy to take us down. It's a vast right-wing conspiracy. No, it's not, okay? The Clintons are as dirty as they come, and not enough has been done in regards to their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, point blank, period. I know that's going to make some people mad out there, but I do not care. Enough is enough here, folks. We have an ex-president pictured getting a massage from a girl who was being actively trafficked during the time. I mean, are you kidding me right now? How are people enraged by this? How did this man have a seat at the DNC to talk and bloviate and preach to the rest of us? According to Davies, Maxwell was present for the voyage and encouraged Davies to give Clinton the massage. Would you mind giving it a crack? Clinton allegedly asked Davies, who claimed he was a complete gentleman during the trip. And again, I'm not sitting here saying Bill Clinton abused anybody with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't have that evidence, and I'm not one of these people that's looking for a hatchet job, not when it comes to this case. All right, don't get me wrong, I have my own political beliefs. We all have our own political beliefs and our own political leanings. But the fact of the matter is this. An ex-president who just spoke at the DNC convention is pictured being massaged by an actively trafficked girl. I'm going to keep driving that point home, folks. The unseemly images were revealed just before Clinton addressed the virtual Democratic National Convention. Davies was 22 at the time, and Clinton has denied any misconduct or knowing of Epstein's abuse of young women. Again, that is not a good enough excuse for me. I am sorry, that does not work. You're the ex-president of the United States. The Secret Service didn't vet Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't know what was up with him. They didn't know he was a sick bastard with proclivities. If that's the case, then maybe the people that work at the Secret Service should be fired and new people should be brought in that know what they're doing. But somehow, I think it had to do with the president telling the Secret Service to screw off. I don't care what you say or think. Jeffrey's my buddy and we're going to hang out. Now, the celebrity tabloid OK Magazine is reporting that ex-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton gifted Maxwell's nephew, Alexander Djerassi, a position within her department when he was just out of college and gave him special treatment. Now, we have talked about this extensively here on the podcast. Now, I can't say one way or the other about special treatment because I don't have any knowledge of that one way or the other. But what I will tell you is this. This is absolute nepotism at its finest. Alexander Djerassi had no business being in the position he was in. As somebody who studies that region, as somebody whose school background is in the Near East, I can tell you with certainty that Alexander Djerassi had no business over there. And in fact, you can see by the result of how disgusting things turned out after the Arab Spring was put into place. Oh, you thought that just happened? You thought that was organic? Those seeds were sown by the CIA and Hillary Clinton's State Department. The Daily Beast could not confirm details of Djerassi's appointment with the State Department, nor if the role was in fact gifted by Clinton. The reports come as Maxwell, 58, awaits trial in a Brooklyn federal lockup for allegedly grooming and trafficking girls for Epstein. Well, I can confirm for sure that he worked for the State Department. Without a shadow of a doubt, he had this job. I've talked to people that I know who are in the know, let's say, when it comes to stuff like this. And there is zero doubt that Djerassi was given the job by Hillary Clinton's State Department. And if you think Hillary didn't call down to whoever was in charge of human resources and give him the nod and tell him, look, this is the guy I want, put him through, then you're being very naive or you're getting fat at the buffet of confirmation bias. It's one or the other. The report also appears to reference Djerassi's LinkedIn profile, which lists his role as Chief of Staff for the Office of the Assistant Secretary of State Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs from May 2011 to June 2012. Djerassi served as Special Assistant to the office from May 2009 to May 2011, his online profile says. Now remember, that's his online profile that says it, okay? I've seen the profile myself, I've looked at it, and there's no doubt in my mind. All right? This isn't some made-up story. This isn't some hit piece. This isn't some salacious BS. This isn't Dr. Fauci owned the house that Ghislaine was hiding in. It's none of that garbage, okay? Alexander Djerassi worked for the State Department. Fact. He also worked for the Clinton-Kaine the team that was running for president. Fact. Djerassi's name also popped up in a collection of Clinton's emails released via WikiLeaks. In a November 2011 message, Assistant Secretary Jeffrey Feltman referred to his special assistant Alex Djerassi. Feltman mentioned Djerassi again in a January 2012 email, according to WikiLeaks. Well, not really according to WikiLeaks. I've read the emails. They're right there for anyone who wants to read them. And it's okay to read those emails, folks, all right? I know that Chris Cuomo told you that he'll tell you what's in those WikiLeaks emails, but it's okay for you to go and look at them yourselves. And I think that you should. I think way too much focus was put on the fact that supposedly, which I do not agree with, that these emails were hacked, and not enough spotlight was put on what was actually in the emails. I think that now that people have a little bit more of a cool head about things, I think people who did not dig into those WikiLeaks emails should most definitely go back and dig into them. Djerassi was also a non-resident associate at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. A biography on the endowment's website states Djerassi's research focused on Tunisia and U.S. foreign policy toward the Middle East and North Africa. Oh, North Africa, huh? Would that be Libya? Wouldn't that be Libya? You know, didn't we destabilize the shit out of Libya? Isn't Tunisia a bit destabilized as well? What role did Alexander Djerassi play in the Arab Spring? And furthermore, was he even worthy of being in that position? Did he have the proper credentials? The bio ads from 2009 to 2012, Djerassi was Chief of Staff and Special Assistant in the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, covering U.S. relations with Arab states, Israel, and Iran. He worked on matters relating to democratization and civil society in the Arab world, the Arab uprising, and Israeli-Palestinian peace. Folks, look, that whole entire Arab Spring was straight up garbage and horribly executed. This is something I can speak about with confidence. This is where my bread and butter is. Talking about the Middle East negotiations, strife in the Middle East, the history of the wars in the Middle East, etc., etc. Near East policy is where I cut my teeth. So the fact that this guy is running around and acting like it's a good thing he was involved in this Arab Spring, yeah, not so much. The Arab Spring was an abject failure, and it was just another example of terrible planning and carrying out of a mission in the Middle East. Djerassi has served as a U.S. representative to the Friends of Libya conferences, shocking. Friends of the Syrian People conferences, oh, that's a shock as well. U.S. GCC Strategic Coordination Forum, and several UN General Assemblies, the profile concluded. Let's see, Libya, Civil War, Syria, Civil War. You see what's going on here, folks? You catch the pattern? Everywhere the State Department ends up in the Middle East, everywhere they dip their fingers, turns into a quagmire of shit. And Djerassi was directly involved in all of that. From September 2007 to June 2008, Djerassi was policy associate for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. He listed his job duties as such: researched and drafted memos, briefings, and policy papers for candidate, senior staff, and news media on wide range of domestic and foreign policy issues. Prepared for more than 20 debates. In late 2007, Epstein was under investigation for trafficking girls in Palm Beach and working on a secret plea deal with federal prosecutors. Maxwell is believed to be one accomplice who was protected under the controversial agreement. Now think about that. He was hired in 2007 and 2008 while Epstein was under investigation. While Epstein was about to go to jail, Hillary Clinton was hiring Ghislaine Maxwell, who was protected by the plea agreement, mind you. We all know she was guilty as hell. But Hillary Clinton hires her nephew and brings him on to her presidential campaign team. And then, when she loses, a little bit later on down the road, after Epstein's already been convicted, she brings him back to the State Department to work. You mean to tell me that there were no policy wonks available besides Alexander Djerassi? I know that's a lie. I have plenty of colleagues who would have loved to have that job. Plenty of very, very well-decorated colleagues who would have loved to throw their hat in that ring, to have a chance to fix and set policy for the Middle East. But no, she hires Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew. Isn't that fantastic, folks? The Yale and Princeton alum, the son of Maxwell's sister Isabel, apparently returned for Clinton's 2016 presidential run. Djerassi lists jobs as National Security Policy Planner for the Clinton-Kaine Presidential Transition Team in 2016. Maxwell and Epstein's connections to the Clintons have faced greater scrutiny after Epstein was arrested in July 2019 for his years-long child sex trafficking scheme. Well, I agree that they're starting to get a little bit more scrutiny, but not from the powers that be, not from the huge outlets. Again, the Daily Beast, and Kate specifically, has been going hard in the paint here, and they have taken the same strategy that I have, and that is fire and burn for anybody involved. I don't have any political favorites. I am a political refugee at this point. So I really could care less which side wins or loses anymore. I don't even care about it, any of it. All I care about is this absolute injustice that we see on a regular basis within our criminal justice system and within the country itself. These disgusting, gross entities like Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein have invaded every level of our lives. And these people and their friends are the ones who make the decisions for how things are going to go for us, our children, and those we love. And if that does not terrify you folks, I honestly have no idea what will. As the Daily Beast reported, Epstein visited the Clinton White House multiple times in the 90s, and Maxwell attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010. And not only that, we have heard reports that Maxwell and Clinton, Bill, were engaged in an affair. You can go look it up for yourselves. You would think that the legacy media would do a better job informing you about all of this, but they're too busy trying to protect their faves. Meanwhile, several Clinton staffers were listed in Epstein's Little Black Book, including Cheryl Mills, Mark Middleton, and Doug Band. Now, Doug Band is an interesting guy. As far as bagmen go, and for bundlers, he is right at the top of the list. Virginia Roberts, a survivor of Epstein's abuse, has previously claimed Bill Clinton visited Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Yes, she has. So again, either you believe Virginia or you don't. I believe Virginia, and I believe all of this evidence that we have about Bill Clinton too. Robert said Maxwell and someone named Emmy Taylor, were present for Clinton's trip along with a pair of young girls from New York. They all allegedly stayed in villas outside the main residence. The accusations were revealed in a tranche of court documents unsealed last month in Roberts' now settled defamation suit against Maxwell. And again, you want to talk about craziness? You want to talk about a story that should be blowing the lid off of things? You would think that this story involving Bill Clinton, of all people, would be rocking the establishment. But they are so shameless that they trot him and his wife out for their DNC rally like nobody's paying attention to what went on. Now, of course, the legacy media is going to try and stuff all this. They're going to try and hide it. They'll try and make excuses. But I know for a fact that people following this case at this point do not give a damn about these stupid partisan politics. People want the gross disgustoids who are involved in this to burn. In a conversation with a lawyer, Robert said Epstein told her that he had the former president in his pocket. I remember asking Jeffrey, what's Bill Clinton doing here on the island? Roberts told the attorney, according to a transcript of their conversation. She said Epstein laughed off her question and replied, "Well, he owes me a favor." Yeah, I bet he does. Lord only knows what Jeffrey Epstein had on Bill Clinton and the rest of these scumbags. Lord only knows what sort of gross activities these people were engaged in. And not only that, who knows what sort of financial crimes they were all engaged in as well. He never told me what favors they were, Roberts continued. I never knew. I didn't know if he was serious. It was just a joke. And again, with Jeffrey Epstein, I don't think the guy jokes, to be honest with you. I don't think anything he talks about is a joke, or talked about, I should say, is a joke. When it came to this kind of shit, he was deadly serious. Now, you would think that Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew, working for the State Department, working for 2 presidential runs of Hillary Clinton, and being obviously brought in there with an extreme act of nepotism, would be a huge story that would have journalists from the New York Times, the Post, all of the legacy media outlets falling over themselves to try and get an interview with Djerassi and try and figure out what went on. But instead, they are more worried that it might give ammunition to the other side. So, instead of bringing justice to the survivors and attempting to right a severe wrong, they would much rather engage in tribalistic politics. My opinion on all of that is that I hope they all go down. Because at the end of the day, what is more disgusting than a human trafficking ring being run by a man like Epstein with so many connections to the most powerful people, not only in the United States, but all over the world? You show me a story that is more important than that, and I'll give it some airtime. Because as of right now, in my opinion, there is nothing more important going on right now than getting to the bottom of this case. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. And again, I created a Facebook page for the show, so the link will be in the description box, along with the link to the episode and the link to the GoFundMe. All right, everybody, we'll be back later on. I hope you all have a great day.
There once was a woman, a host with the most, with plenty of Coca-Cola for a holiday toast. She headed out to share a Coke with friends in town, but outside the door was a gift on the ground. So she reached inside and read the letter. Have a Coke, old friend, because together tastes better.
This season, say thank you to family, friends, or neighbors by sharing an ice-cold Coke. Because sharing brings us together, and we know together tastes better. Pick up a Coke at your nearest Bashas' and share it today.
Frustrating is backwards going, especially when you're trying to get ahead in life and at work. So if you're thinking of going to school, enroll at Brandman University, where you can use tomorrow what you learned today in over 90 programs built from the job up. Keep your life and your education moving in the right direction. And go ahead with school, not back to it. At Brandman University. Visit brandman.edu or click the banner.